Hello, gorgeous. Today we are doing something very special, aren't we, Weasel? We are reading aloud Magnetic Mindset. This is a book I wrote a few years ago, and it's actually my favorite book that I've ever written. I'm really proud of this book, and I'm reading it aloud to you. There will be 12 chapters of this released on YouTube because, number one, I think it's really good kind of listening just to have playing in the background while you're cooking or driving or taking a bath. But also, I wanted the reminder of this book. I wanted to tap back into the magic of this book because it was a very special time when I wrote it, and I think it's ready to be revisited. So I hope that you enjoy this. Make sure you check out all 12 chapters, and let's get started. Magnetic Mindset: How to Make Love to the Universe and Manifest Anything by Gala. Introduction. Nothing that is happening needs to affect your vibration and therefore needs to affect what is happening to you. Abraham Hicks. As we rounded the corner and the end of the year came into sight, I felt like a ghost of my former self, like I had been dragged over shards of glass, down the highway and back again by my own hair. I was spiritually bereft. I felt emotionally exhausted. I was frustrated, scared, sad, angry, and anxious. A truly painful cocktail that I felt I should have been way past, but I wasn't. On the surface, my life was wonderful, beautiful, delicious, and in almost every way it was. But my relationship was giving me fits. I loved my boyfriend desperately, and he loved me too, but we just seemed to be having endless problems. Our frustrations with ourselves met in the middle and seemed to ricochet off one another. The places where we had disappointed ourselves seemed exacerbated by the other. We wanted to be better, but we were struggling. And as two high-achieving Virgos, this was like being in the ninth circle of hell. And you know how it goes. Even if everything else is great, if one thing feels off, you almost can't help giving it your undivided attention. You become obsessed with fixing it. But you may have noticed from your own life that every time you focus on your problems, they only become bigger. The more we brainstorm, the more resources we throw at them, the larger their gravitational pull becomes. What started as a small irk is now an unavoidable black hole with your entire existence swirling around the outskirts. Wow, the drama. And this was certainly the case for me. I was shelling out hundreds of dollars for therapy every week, and even though I loved my therapist Carol and the big chunk of rose quartz in her office, I didn't feel like I was breaking any new ground. It seemed like we just kept digging for pain. Where were these feelings of rejection coming from? Why did I have a fear of abandonment? The worst thing is that as much as I searched my memories, I didn't know the answer to any of these questions. I kept coming up empty. It felt like time to call in the big guns, and so I started listening to Tony Robbins. He had great energy and his tools made sense, and it motivated me a lot in the beginning. But even as I made copious notes, asked myself hard questions, and implemented his suggestions, as the weeks passed, it seemed that nothing in my real life had shifted. Or to put it plainly, my relationship was still causing a lot of pain. I was watching Tony's videos every day, even the videos where counselors broke down his steps so I could understand them from a therapeutic level. And while it was useful for my work and very intellectually stimulating, I didn't feel any better. It seemed like Tony's tactics were simply a variation on the same strategy I had always used, which was to ask myself, how do I logic my way out of this problem? So many of us do this. Presented with an emotional problem, we try to apply logic to it and wonder why nothing changes. The problem is that you cannot convince yourself out of anxiety, no matter how good your supporting evidence it may be. The sound of the bells on my front door jangling, a sign that my boyfriend was about to walk into my apartment, which had once upon a time made me feel so happy and excited, now made me feel anxious. I adored him and I wanted more than anything for it to work, but it seemed that the more I wanted it to work, the more distant he became. I was exhausted from living with him and desperate for space, but I was afraid not to be with him. I wanted to sleep all the time and I didn't feel creative. All of these things fed each other like a ghastly snake eating its own tail. In short, I was screwed. One day, for no reason that I could discern, I hit pause in the middle of yet another Tony Robbins video and typed Abraham Hicks into the search box. I had heard about Abraham Hicks many times from many different people, and I'd made a few attempts to listen to the tapes in the past, but it never really worked for me. I didn't understand what she was saying, and the idea that a woman was channeling the collective unconscious felt too far-fetched for me to put any stock in. I had decided it was nonsense years ago and never given it another thought. Until that day. At the time, I had no idea what possessed me to do this, but with context, I see it as a case of divine intervention. The first video I watched told me everything I needed to hear, lifted my spirits, and made me realize a better future was not just possible, it was guaranteed. I was hooked. Growing up, my parents had always talked about the power of the mind and that you could have, be, and do anything you wanted. I had heard it so much that I really absorbed it, but over time, my natural optimism had tarnished. Listening to Abraham Hicks was like having someone take a cloth to my optimism and shine it up again. I started to take notes and practice what Abraham Hicks was preaching, to feel good, to think something else if my thoughts were unpleasant, and to allow myself to go with the flow. At first, it was shocking. I became aware of just how often I was allowing my mind to wander to the worst case scenario and stay there. I saw how lazy and undisciplined I had been with my thinking. And so I made a commitment to focus on what felt good and see what happened. It worked instantly. I started to feel more peace, more ease, more joy, and not because there was a change of government or my boyfriend suddenly did what I wanted him to do or anything else that was external to me. The solution was in getting my mind right. The solution was choosing to be happy no matter what. The solution was removing conditions from my joy and not allowing my environment or my boyfriend to throw me off. Practicing gratitude every day, feeling good like it was my job because I realized that it actually is, and being relentlessly present. These simple things created an undeniably powerful transformation. My elevation was unbelievable. I was feeling good, what Abraham Hicks calls being in the vortex, every day. I was making new friends, traveling to the other side of the world to speak and meeting the most amazing people, owning my power, and even getting dressed in the vortex. Mostly this looked like a lot of wigs and sparkly bodysuits, and honey, it felt great. I went to Los Angeles with my best friend for a week and felt absolutely incredible the whole time. But when I went back to New York, my relationship was harder than ever. The gap between my boyfriend and me had gotten even bigger. A week or so later, I got on my knees and did something I hadn't done in a long time. I prayed. I prayed for peace in my relationship. I prayed that we would be happy, that something, anything would change. I didn't even know if I believed in prayer or in a higher power or in any of that. I just knew that something had to be different. Desperation had inspired my knees to hit the floor. And the next day, out of the blue, my relationship ended. But it's true what they say, the universe always trades up. Even though the end of our relationship was sad, a couple of weeks later, I found myself on the best first date of my life, one that turned into a beautiful romance, a romance that reminded me of my light, my power, and my worth. Since I started to make feeling good my priority, my past life could not be more different than my current reality. With feeling good becoming my central philosophy, I packed up my entire life in New York City and moved to California, and lived in a slew of beautiful homes, one with a glorious garden, one on the ocean, and one with a garage that I filled with beautiful cars. Anyone who has lived in New York knows how insane this all sounds. My creativity has exploded. Opportunities I've always wanted have started to flow into my life with absolutely no effort from me. I created the body I'd been desiring for a long time using visualization, appreciation, and consistency in the gym. I adopted a beautiful dog and met the man of my dreams. And best of all, I wake up every day feeling free, joyful, and excited about what's next. Listening to Abraham Hicks unlocked something within me. It reminded me that ecstasy is my birthright, that nothing is outside of the realms of possibility, and that if I want to feel good, I cannot blame anyone else for how I feel. It's all on me. Within just 1 year of adopting this new mindset, my life became a vivid example of just how much things can change, how powerful we truly are, and that everything we desire can be made manifest when we approach it the right way. As I continue to practice feeling good, now several years on, it's incredible how much things can bloom and evolve. These days, I consider the teachings of Abraham Hicks to be my foundation, and they inform everything else I do. But it is not the only thing I follow or believe in. There are many other beautiful philosophies and tools within this world, and my life has gotten even more delicious when I layer them on top of what I've learned from Abraham. That's what this book is, an exploration of the various systems that I have used to enhance my life, to make it more beautiful, and to make it more easeful. I'm going to share with you everything I've discovered about manifesting the life you've always wanted. We will cover everything from creating daily routines, to transforming your relationships, to clearing your clutter and making your space feel delightful. I can't wait to jump in. Let's begin. Chapter 1. You are Goddess. Have you ever had one of those days that feels like a big cosmic joke? Like the universe is just messing with you? You don't understand what you're doing wrong. Why is nothing working out the way you want it to? Why does life feel so unfair? Have you ever experienced one of those moments where you lose faith in the universe? It all seems wrong. It all seems totally hopeless. Sometimes you don't feel sad. You just feel pissed. You want to grab the universe and slam its figurative head in a car door. You feel so angry and drained and hopeless that you almost can't remember your dreams. You certainly can't comprehend what your life would be like if your dreams came true. It all feels so far away. Of course you have had those days because despite frequent confusion about how the rest of the species are behaving, you are a human being. Being a human is pretty damn good for the most part. However, for all the fabulousness of being human, we also have some very tricky machinery. Machinery that we don't always understand. Now, how would you feel if I told you that you are the one creating all this discord in your life? You might want to throw this book against the wall in a fiery rage, and who could blame you? I have felt this way many times. I have beaten my head against the wall, wondering whether I was being punished by the universe in a twist of karmic fate. Maybe I'd done something truly evil in a past life. I've had moments where I have been convinced that it's all terrible. The more I insisted upon how terrible it was, the worse it became. But when I finally get to that point where I pick my face up out of the puddle I have planted in and make tiny little energetic shifts, say for example, jotting down daily gratitude lists or doing EFT tapping in the mornings, the rest of my life starts to transform too. The best thing? My life doesn't change because of anything external to me. It changes because I change my thoughts. The reason my thoughts change my life is because we are vibrational beings. That means that it is far more important that we tweak our vibration than anything we might do in the material world. Now, this might sound abstract, so let me explain it a little bit more. Whatever I focus on, wherever I put my energy and attention, will expand. Have you ever had a real humdinger of a problem? And did you ever notice that when you obsess over and fixate on that problem, it only ever seems to get worse? I have experienced precisely this outcome so many times in so many different areas of my life, from my health to my relationships to my bank balance. Bizarrely, it seems that when I either change my thoughts about the subject, so instead of freaking out over how I don't have enough money, I make an effort to be truly and authentically grateful for what I do have, or I simply stop thinking about the subject as much as possible, the situation changes too. Money shows up, a job comes in, a new client sends an email. Miracles occur. You already know this from your own life. When you pour love and appreciation into a situation, whether it's being thankful for your friendships or enjoying a creative act, it flourishes. Your pre-existing friendships deepen and you meet new people. When you're enjoying being creative, the work flows. It's easy. You produce some of the best work of your life. This is a function of both momentum, i.e. putting energy into something allows it to pick up speed like a snowball and just get bigger and bigger, and also that our thoughts dictate the conditions of our life. If you want to approach this from a purely scientific standpoint, you can look at confirmation bias. This is a function of the human brain, which means that our beliefs inform our life. With confirmation bias, we are wired to look for things, people, situations, events that confirm our biases. Biases being preconceived notions and prejudices, things we believe to be true about groups of people, or patterns or habits of thinking that we are accustomed to. One of the rules of your brain's operating system is that your subconscious mind will never make you a liar. In other words, if you believe that all men are dishonest, your subconscious mind will actually go looking for men who prove this to you. In fact, confirmation bias is so powerful that even if you do meet an honest man, you will go looking for instances of his trickiness. And of course, you'll find it because nobody is completely squeaky clean. And again, your subconscious mind will never make you a liar. You can only imagine how our confirmation biases mess with our intimate relationships. This is not some woo-woo craziness. There are endless scientific experiments which prove that reality is what we make it. Google the double slit experiment and quantum theory reality if you truly want to geek out. But if you'd like to bring together the physical, neuroscience, quantum physics, and psychology, and the metaphysical, all you need to know is that our thoughts are truly the seedlings of our reality. If your thoughts create your universe, what does this mean for you sitting here listening to this? It means that you are massively powerful. In fact, it means that even when you're sweatpants, hair tied, chilling with no makeup on, as Drake would say, you are a goddess, and not in a harem pants, namaste, yoga class kind of way. No shade to that lifestyle, but it's just not what we're talking about here. I mean this as in, you are literally a goddess with the power to create and destroy at the ends of your beautifully manicured fingertips. You choose what you see through those glossy black eyelashes. You attract lovers and girl gangs and abundance with your vibration. Your thoughts become things, your words are wands, and your energy is everything. That's the good news. You are infinitely more powerful than you think. And the bad news? You are infinitely more powerful than you think. So any suffering you commit to, any unpleasantries to which you are handcuffed, any pity parties you throw, these are entirely your creation. The more you engage with them, the deeper you crawl into them, the heavier they become, the more real and tangible they are. Robert Anton Wilson once said, "The mind is a tool invented by the universe to see itself." In short, we are constant magicians. We possess the power of the infinite universe within us. We are creating the conditions of our lives. No matter what is going on in your life, it is important that you claim it, take ownership of it, and understand that it is something you conjured into being. Believe me when I say that the universe has not pinned a kick me sign on your back. You are not cursed, destined for misery, or a victim of cosmic malpractice. Your so-called bad luck is a creation of your own. Gasp. Once you start to grasp this fact, really bite into it, gnash it with your teeth, lick and taste and begin to digest it, reality as you know it looks radically different. You will have begun to realize that your reality is your creation. This can be a bittersweet pill to swallow. Who doesn't want to take credit for all the positive things in their life? All those scrumptious orgasms, killer outfits, beautiful panoramas. Yes, a hearty, full body yes to these things. But we're less keen to acknowledge that those depressing relationships, dead-end jobs, and nasty frenemies could be our responsibility too. We can't have it both ways. Either we're responsible for everything, even the things we don't understand that have caused us pain, or we're not responsible for anything at all. And application of a little thing called logic simply does not co-sign the idea that our lives are the result of random chance. Look at the people in your life and the things they tell themselves on a daily basis. What stories do they insist on telling? What beliefs do they hold? What do they think about all the time? If the conditions of their lives are not an absolute match to these things, I will donate all my clothes to charity and go naked for the rest of my life. These things do not happen by chance. We are not fated to anything. If you are reading this or listening to this, I know that you want more for yourself. You want to unfurl your petals like a lotus flower. And I am here to help you see that you can do this, that it is easy. But you have to start by letting go of your old beliefs. You have to stop telling yourself disempowering stories that keep you locked into your dissatisfying past. Stories that rationalize the dissatisfying conditions of your present. Stories that will justify the dissatisfying outcomes of your future. You have to stop spending time with people who reinforce these patterns, who enable you, or who try to dim your light at every opportunity possible. And you have to take responsibility for purposefully crafting your own life. This is a bold new world, a world where everything is possible, where your dreams are never too big, where you feel delicious in your body, your smile lights up the room, and you feel inspired, grateful, and excited every single day. This is not a far-fetched fantasy. It can be your reality right now. All you have to do is decide. Decide that this is who you are now. Decide that this is what you believe. You actually do not have to earn a life that feels good. You do not have to continue flagellating yourself by constantly digging for fresh pain or desperately trying to heal something that was never broken in the first place. You don't have to insist on your unworthiness or that you're fractured and lost. What if I told you that you are absolutely perfect right now? Could you accept it? Could you take it in? Or would it just piss you off? There is a lot of money to be made in assuring people that they are damaged and that they need help. Whether it's a juice cleanse, a spiritual retreat, or a new sports car, businesses thrive when they insist that you are not enough and that this thing, finally, this one thing, will fix you. It will assuredly make you feel whole and complete and good about yourself, and for only 25 easy payments of $499.99. You know what? No. Let's start to tell ourselves that we are beautiful, talented geniuses. Let's affirm that we are wonderful right now, no interference required. Let's accept that we are constantly creating with our thoughts and our feelings, so it's important that we choose them intentionally and we set ourselves up for success. Learning how to think. Envision the things you want, your desires, as beautifully wrapped gifts, and your feelings as a conveyor belt. Every time you think of something you want, your mind spits it out as a pretty present, and it drops onto the conveyor belt of how you feel. Now, what is the role of the conveyor belt? Your feelings dictate the speed with which your manifestation will come to fruition. Your feelings can speed the conveyor belt up, they can slow it down, and they can even turn you in the other direction if someone hits the switch. So how you are feeling lets you know whether you're getting closer to or further away from what you want. As you can probably imagine, feeling good speeds you closer. Feeling negative, doubtful, or impatient slows down the whole process. If you stay in an unpleasant frame of mind for months, years, or decades, it could even knock the gift off the belt entirely. This is because the ultimate goal is to get into vibrational alignment with what you want. Delicious things require delicious feelings. It's really as simple as that. Your feelings are your lighthouse. They are your guide. People get really tripped up on whether their manifestations are working, and the only way to know is to appraise your feelings. If you feel mostly good, what you want is on its way. But if you feel mostly bad, you are veering off course. When I started to consistently practice this idea, I was absolutely shocked by how often I was feeling pessimistic, disappointed, angry, or hopeless. I had been thinking of myself as a positive person for the last decade, but it was staggering to realize that I was in a deeply negative state multiple times a day. Of course, then I wondered why certain parts of my life just kept getting worse and worse. As you now know, whatever we put our attention on grows. As you begin to work with these concepts, you may, like me, be also surprised by how regularly you feel bad. That's okay. Simply notice it and breathe. Feeling guilty or ashamed or beating yourself up for having a negative feeling is not going to get you to where you want to go any faster. So let go of the guilt or shame as soon as you can. Allow yourself to feel your emotions without judgment, let it move through you, and then watch with fascination as it drops to the floor. Science has shown us that we can only physically feel an emotion for 90 seconds, so you might be amazed by how quickly the feeling dissipates. Release yourself from the burden of feeling guilty or ashamed about any of this. You are not expected to know. Very few, if any of us, are taught about these ideas as children. It's so unfortunate because imagine how empowered we would have been if we had known these things from a young age. Imagine what the world would look like if people truly understood that their feelings are guiding everything in their lives. Most adults are completely unaware of how much control they have. We have no idea how to think or harness our true creative power. If we're lucky, we might be taught critical thinking in school, but what about thinking for self-love, thinking for manifestation? Most of us have a habit of following our feelings wherever they deign to take us. And since our mind is primal in nature and the fear part of our brain is so overly developed in order to survive, we all have a tendency to veer towards the negative, to fixate on problems, to imagine the worst case scenario and stay there. Back in the days of furry loincloths and chewing woolly mammoth meat off the bone, this was perfectly fine. It served a beautiful purpose. We needed that acute sense of fear to keep us alive and to propagate the species. But these days, not so much. Most of us are living in the lap of luxury, chilling with our Wi-Fi and climate control, chugging back lattes and ordering sequin catsuits online. Wait, is that just me? The truth about today is that life is just not that dangerous. The biggest threat to our lives is walking out in front of a car while glued to our phone. The problem is that the limbic system, the watch out, halt there, danger ahead part of our brain is still super active. And how do I put this? It's a little bored. It's twiddling its thumbs, desperate for a saber-toothed tiger or a tsunami. So it gets its kicks by creating mayhem and mischief in our essentially peaceful lives. Instead of fearing prehistoric predators, now we're afraid of public speaking, being authentic, getting rejected, being criticized, and our minds are in total overdrive. These intense fears are hardwired into our biology, so we are probably not going to be able to completely wipe them out within the next 100 years. But we can give ourselves a chance at serenity and happiness by simply realizing this is how we are programmed, and we get to choose whether we listen to these messages, and we get to input new messages, more empowering messages, into our minds at will. It's a good day to have a good day. Let's start with the morning. It's a fresh beginning, a new dawn. How glorious. Many of us dream about having a beautiful start to our day. We'd wake up with the sunrise, hear the birds chirping, stretch, meditate, and float into the shower. Or perhaps you fantasize about sleeping in, your lover bringing you a triple shot espresso, and having a delicious romp in the sheets before tackling the day ahead. We all have a different idea of what the ideal morning could look like, but one thing is for certain. None of us dream about waking up feeling groggy, being late, and tripping over a pile of shoes left inconveniently in front of the door. Why is this? Well, no one wants to feel bad, and we also know deep down that how the morning begins is likely to affect the rest of our day. That old saying about waking up on the wrong side of the bed is really a self-fulfilling prophecy for some people. Here's how the morning plays out from an energetic standpoint. You are essentially starting at zero. While you slept, all the momentum, by which I mean all the energy you generated during the day before, came to a halt. You were dreaming, regenerating, rebuilding your cells, fixing and repairing. Your subconscious mind was essentially giving you therapy, figuring out the nitty-gritty of your problems. This is one of the reasons why people tell you to sleep on a problem, because your subconscious is working to provide solutions in the mind overnight. So, when you wake up, you are at zilch. Your energy is purely neutral. As you open your eyes, you are being presented with a beautiful blank canvas upon which you can project anything you like. The vibe of your day will follow the vibe of your morning. So with this in mind, it makes sense to set up your home and your life so you are giving yourself the best possible start. Once your eyes flutter open, the first thing you do is take in the sights around you. Sitting here, listening to this right now, take a moment to ask yourself, what is on my bedside table? What art is on the walls in my bedroom? How could I cultivate a happier scene and create more pleasure? You see, even the smallest tweaks to our seemingly routine lives can impact us enormously. Personally, I am a paradox. I love things and I am such a magpie, and yet at the same time, I always feel better when I am not faced with clutter. It seems like I spent my 20s snapping up everything that took my fancy, which led to delightfully overflowing bookshelves in a truly unruly closet. And while this was certainly fun to look at, maximalism forever, it was also a little bit stressful. Now, in my 30s, oh my God, I'm in my 40s now, I am experimenting with buying fewer things and being far more discerning. When I moved into my new home, I only bought things I loved to fill it. If I couldn't find the right item, I would not buy it. This is such a simple idea, but makes a huge difference. Here are a few things I like to do which add to the joy of my morning and that you might like to incorporate too. At night before I go to sleep, I silence my phone, light candles, and allow myself to wind down. This helps me sleep more soundly, which adds to my feelings of positivity and well-restedness in the morning. I like to read before I fall asleep, and I do this as often as possible. Being warm really helps me relax, so I love to submerge myself in the tub with some Epsom salts or lie on my infrared mat filled with pieces of amethyst, blissful. I tidy up my home every night before I go to sleep. That way there's nothing distracting or messy to my eye, and there is no better feeling than waking up to a clean house. I don't often use an alarm, but when I do, I either set it to cheerful birdsong or make sure it's a song that I love. Stack items that remind you of who you want to be on your bedside table. A journal, a canteen of fresh water, crystals to meditate with. I also set crystal rainbow makers in my window so that when the sun hits them, rainbows dance around my room. Light clears the energy in a space, so every time these rainbows circulate, I see it as an energetic sweep. Now, let's talk about your mindset. This is where it starts to get juicier. The momentum of your morning mind. We are constantly building momentum. We are either pouring fuel on the fire of something good, or we're stoking the flames of the things we are most afraid of. It all depends on where you're putting your attention. We are actually not at the mercy of our thoughts like we think we are. That's just a trick our brain is playing on us. We get to choose our thoughts, and we also get to choose how long we spend with each one. I see our brains as an endless series of trampolines stretching as far as the eye can see. Each trampoline represents a thought. I'm ugly, or life is beautiful, or I'll never be loved. The wonderful thing about our minds is that we get to choose which trampoline we bounce to and how long we jump up and down on it. The longer we jump, the deeper we go. Want to feel good? Bounce on a joyful thought. Want to feel like a piece of gum stuck to an old shoe? Bounce on a thought of scarcity, fear, or lack. As Abraham Hicks says, we are so free that we can choose bondage. So if you want to choose a thought that makes you feel bad, that builds those negative emotions, that encourages fear within you, you absolutely have the right to do so. However, may I suggest that you'd probably be happier if you chose a more fulfilling thought. It's essential that we choose the right thoughts first thing in the morning. When you wake up, it's as if the opening credits of a movie are just starting to roll. You get to decide, is this a tense drama, a romantic comedy, a musical, a surreal art house flick? Imagine your morning as if it is an old-fashioned set of scales with a little cup dangling from each end. On one side, you have good feelings, which lead to positive manifestations, and on the other, you have negative feelings, which lead to, you guessed it. When you wake up, both sides of the scale are empty, but the gift of the day is that your pockets are full of thousands of tiny little pebbles, thoughts, to fill them up with. If you start to load up the negative side, it gets heavier and heavier. You begin to stay there, to dwell, to go down the rabbit hole. But it's just as easy to start stacking your pebbles on the positive side. Your first thoughts in the morning lean you in one direction or the other, and from there, momentum builds. Your positive or negative thoughts gain impetus and start to drive you forward. You've probably experienced this yourself many times. When you wake up and instantly think something negative, your day simply goes downhill from there. On the other hand, when you wake up feeling grateful, it gets better. Now, before you start telling yourself some kind of silly story, for example, I'm just a negative person, stop right there. No, you're not. That's a limiting belief and quite frankly, an excuse for lazy thinking. Let's demand more from ourselves. We all have the ability to go negative, just like we all have the ability to go positive. We each have just as many negative thoughts as we do positive ones. You only think more negative thoughts because this is a pattern you have trained yourself into. It is a routine. Don't get it twisted. You are capable of thinking thousands of positive thoughts a day. You are just not as well practiced. This is why having some kind of morning practice, an opportunity to set yourself up for positivity, is so essential. It almost doesn't matter what the practice is, as long as you have one. I heard a recording from a seminar a couple of months ago where someone in the audience said, "When I wake up, I like to think of my day as a song. Do I want it to be energetic and loud or soft and gentle? And then I think thoughts and take actions that will get me there." I loved this idea. The good news is that even if you wake up with an unpleasant thought, it is still early in the day. You can choose to switch your thinking. When we do this, when we behave preemptively and take initiative, we are actually taking action so that we are not at the mercy of our reactions. Pretty great, huh? This is one of the reasons why people suggest that you meditate in the morning. Your mind is more open, more malleable, and if you take a moment to sit in stillness, it will set a gentle tone for the rest of your day. My morning routine is as follows. Most days, I let the sun coming through my skylight wake me up. This is such a privilege after living in New York City for a decade. I am grateful every time it happens, even if sometimes I wish I could get a little more sleep. I snuggle with my dogs, make myself an oat milk latte, put on some music, and sit down with my purple journal to do my morning pages. I write at least 3 pages by hand, and it's incredible how much clarity I get from this simple process. Sometimes I do this at the kitchen counter, and sometimes I sit on my balcony where I can breathe the ocean air and enjoy the sun on my back. Once my coffee is kicked in, I change into workout clothes, head downstairs, and get a great sweat going on my Peloton bike. Starting my day like this is so powerful and is my favorite version of my morning routine so far. The next step is my magical morning practice, which you'll learn about below. Magical morning, the practice. If your desires are gifts and your feelings move the gift either closer or further away, where does your behavior come into play? Your behavior, or the things you do and the words you say, are an extension of your feelings. If you feel happy, you will do happy things. It's really that simple. No one expects words of comfort from an angry person, just like you'll never see a truly blissful person biting the head off a pigeon. So it is essential that we get ourselves into a positive place every morning, just so you don't bite the heads off any pigeons, I suppose. The way you act, whether you are kind to your postman and smile at your barista, or walk around with a bad attitude, absolutely reverberates throughout your life, you would be off your tree to think that there are no consequences to acting like a dick. Trust me, there are. If you're ever in doubt, simply remember this. We do not attract what we would like. We attract what we are like. This concept shows up when we are interacting with the world. Ever feel like everyone is rude when you're in a bad mood? And it also means that it is important that we get into vibrational alignment with the things that we want in our lives. If you want a big house, but you're swollen with unworthiness, you will never get it. If you want to fall in love, but you're convinced of your unlovability, guess what? It ain't coming. Years ago, I created something called the Magical Morning Practice. At the time, I was going through a really rough patch with my aforementioned boyfriend, and I needed something to help me focus on what was good and possible. This practice was the result, and it's an absolute superhighway to manifesting all the things you desire. The Magical Morning Practice gets us onto the same emotional track as the things that we want. In our magical mornings, we speak about things as if they have already happened so that our subconscious mind can accept them as done and set about pulling the levers and making them happen. When we speak in the past tense, we give our bodies and minds an opportunity to accept these things as done and complete. It's the difference between walking past Gucci and staring in the window excitedly and sashaying into the store, trying on a pair of sunglasses and taking a cute selfie in them. Putting ourselves into the picture helps us feel that whatever we want is easy to obtain and that whatever we want is already ours. It is much easier to act as if when we get intimate and close with whatever we want to manifest. This massively speeds up our vibrational alignment. The Magical Morning Practice is so easy that it almost feels criminal, especially when you realize how quickly it works. But the more I learn about manifesting, the more I realize that it is all about ease. Letting it flow is essential and the root of everything good. For this practice, I like to use my phone as a magical tool. Besides, we are pretty much all addicted to our phones, and even though we know we shouldn't be using them as soon as we roll over and open our eyes, hands up if you still do this every single morning. Yeah, me too. So instead of lambasting ourselves for this grave offense, why not use the phone as a tool to do something positive? Step 1. Pick up your phone and open whatever app you have to record a voice memo. Hit record and start talking. Step 2. Speak about what you're grateful for. Dive deep into this. Get high on the countless blessings that are already in your life, from the frozen coffee drink in your hand to the art show you saw last week. Let your feelings guide you as you do this. It's not supposed to be an intellectual or logical exercise. The only way to get the full benefit from this is if you really feel into it, luxuriate in each item you mention, and allow yourself to expound on everything with glee. Every time you do this, it will feel different. Some days you will express your gratitude with violent enthusiasm and excitement. On other days, the gratitude will feel more like relief and calmness. And there will be days where it falls somewhere in between those two ends of the spectrum. All of this is wonderful and okay. Allow yourself to ride the waves of emotionality. They are a gift of being human. Talk about what you're grateful for until you feel that it has raised your frequency, that you're not just thinking about what's good, you actually feel it. Step 3. Now, talk about your desire for the day. I love this step because until I started doing this on a daily basis, I felt very disconnected from my desires. Before Magical Morning, my desire was to tick items off my to-do list, and there's very little pleasure in that. My life motto now is pleasure over everything, and in order to live this as opposed to just thinking it, it's essential that I get in touch with what I really, truly want. This process is going to open your eyes to what you actually desire, which is so much fun. Here's the kicker. You are going to phrase all of this in the past tense. You will say, I wrote 3,000 words and it was amazing, instead of, I'm going to write 3,000 words today. You are going to talk about it as if it is already a done deal, signed, sealed, and delivered, as if it was an old story you were telling your grandchildren. Channel that old lady on the Titanic. Or tell it as if you're on a top 10 podcast and you have the host eating out of the palm of your hand. You are going to look back at your day, yes, your day which has not happened yet, and tell the story of it. Mine might sound something like this. I had such a beautiful day. The weather was perfect, and after I did my morning routine, I went for a walk along the beach. I felt so good in my outfit and strong in my body. I had this lovely conversation with my man that made us feel closer than ever, and we planned some adventures for the future that we are both so excited about. Then I drove into Los Angeles to be on a podcast, and it went so well, maybe the best interview I've ever done. By the time I got home again, I was feeling so full of life. I laughed with my friend as I drove home and fell asleep dreaming about my man. You can be really specific with this if that feels good, but you can also be more vague if that feels good. A less specific desire might sound like this. I had such a beautiful day, I woke up feeling great, and then something happened that surprised and delighted me even more. I attracted a magnificent opportunity that I had been hoping for a long time, and I went to bed feeling peaceful and magnificent. Step 4. Finally, talk about your future desires. Again, you're going to phrase this in the past tense. This is the place where you get to go really big. Take a moment to zoom out on your life, Google Earth style, and see what is possible. Hint, anything is possible. Remember to say it as if it has already happened. Say, I'm so happy I bought the house of my dreams, not, I'm so happy I am buying the house of my dreams. Or, I'm so happy that I am about to buy the house of my dreams. So an example of this segment might go something like this. For my future desire, I'm so happy that I bought my dream house in California with a view of the ocean and an infinity pool. I love flying off to Hawaii every month to be with my man and enjoy being in nature together. I love driving the car of my dreams around with my friends and going on road trips with people I love. I'm so happy to be in love with the most incredible man and that our relationship is so easy and joyful. My business keeps expanding in the most beautiful and surprising ways. I'm creative every day, the money flows constantly, and I keep doing bigger and more fun things all the time. Yum, it felt good just writing that. Speaking it out loud is even more powerful, and sharing it with someone else brings it rushing into the present moment with even more vigor, which brings me to Step 5. You're done. Stop recording. Now it's time to save the voice note and send it to a friend. Yes, does that sound scary? I know that it might, but it's a really big piece of this process. This person is going to become your manifestation buddy. They are going to hold your hand throughout this process and be by your side. There are a few reasons for sharing. One is that it encourages you to be bold and unashamed about what you want. So many of us have guilt over the things that we want, and this is like extreme aversion therapy. It pushes us to get over that. The second reason is that when you share your dreams with other people, you'll begin to realize that they are not really a big deal. The things you want aren't that crazy or out of reach at all. And finally, involving someone else in your magical morning is beautiful because it amplifies the strength of the transmission. When I listen to my friends' recordings, which can range from 5 to 10 minutes long, I am often doing something else, putting on makeup, tidying, etc. As I listen, I am paying attention, but not absolute attention, and this means that I am visualizing everything they say as being done already. I'm not always sure what section we're in, gratitude or desire. This makes it even more real. In my mind's eye, I can see my friend doing that thing she wants to do. In my imagination, it is already manifested. This helps me give her really enthusiastic feedback, and it boosts the signal of her manifestations. You should note that the magical morning practice is not just a cute name. This is truly a magical practice. Be mindful about who you invite in. You might wish you could bring your best friend into it, but secretly, deep down, you know that they won't be fully supportive, and they certainly won't be able to be vulnerable enough to respond in kind. If this is how you feel, don't send the message to them. What I recommend is floating the idea with a few friends who you think would be into it, and then test it out. See how it feels. This is always the ultimate test. How does it feel? And by the way, you could also join us in High Vibe Honey and find a magical morning practice partner there. Step 6. Anticipate your friend's delicious message in return. As I progress with this practice, I've discovered that the most joyful, magical morning exchanges occur when you both give a little bit of feedback on what the other has sent through. Now, by feedback, I do not mean unsolicited opinions. What I mean is that you upride your friend's message and they do the same to you. An upride is when you hear someone and you encourage them, you support them, you uplift them. This could be as simple as, "I'm so happy you did so much writing. It sounded so satisfying. I loved it." Or you can get more advanced with it and enhance their vision. So you might say, "I love your new car too, and it was so fun driving with you up the Pacific Coast Highway. Have fun with it." Other notes. This is a deeply transformative practice, and if you commit to it consistently, you will truly be astounded by the changes that occur. It is the fastest manifestation tool I have ever used by a country mile. You can, of course, do this practice any time of day, but I love it in the morning because it really kicks you off on the right foot. Sometimes I do it in bed, sometimes I pace around my house, but when I lived in New York City, I would do it while I walked my dog in the East Village. If you don't feel comfortable sharing your manifestations with someone else, you don't have to at first. Just make the recordings and save them for yourself. You could even make a practice of listening to them at the end of the day to check in and see whether your manifestations are hitting the mark. But I recommend that eventually you make the leap and you find a buddy to exchange magical mornings with. If this exercise makes you feel uncomfortable, that's even more of a reason to do it. We often resist the ideas that we know deep down will encourage us to grow, get bigger, and be bolder. And as much as I am an enthusiastic proponent of this technique, you will not see results from just reading or hearing about it, because only life experience teaches. In other words, you'll never know if you never give it a go. So go on, no matter what time of day it is, crack open your voice memo app and make your first recording. In conclusion, the body becomes what the foods are as the spirit becomes what the thoughts are. Ancient Kemetic proverb. I am so proud of you for embarking on this journey. Make no mistake, as we work through this book together, you will overhaul your entire life. It is going to be incredible, and you are not doing it alone. There is an entire community of badass babes reading this book and making huge changes to their lives, and I've created a library of support for you to call on whenever you desire it. Go to galadarling.com and click on the Book Bonuses tab to get access to the whole lot. You'll find guided tapping videos and so much more absolutely free. As you watch the videos, you're welcome to share what's going on for you. We are in this together and we're a very big, very powerful group. Lean on us. In this chapter, we have examined a lot of ideas that may be at odds with some of your long-held views about life and that may have felt challenging. That's okay. You may find, as I said, that you are shocked by how much negativity you are feeling. That's okay too. It is only by becoming aware that we can truly begin to make changes. This is phase 1, and there is so much to come. Start to pay attention to your feelings. Do whatever it takes to make yourself feel good in the morning. Commit to the magical morning practice for 31 days and see how your life begins to shift. Things are only going to get better. Just you wait. I'll see you soon for chapter 2.